Genesis 6 and 4, and there were giants in the earth in those days. I've shared before very interesting articles that I have about giant bones and giant skeletons found over here in the Americas. Uh, the thousands and thousands and thousands that have been taken by the Smithsonian that have been found over here on Turtle Island inside the mounds, going from Canada all the way down to the tip of South America. You're going to find the bones of giants ranging from slightly taller than we are today, 7 feet, 8 feet, 6'9", going up to bones of skeletons that they found that were going towards 60, 70, and upward feet. Not only did they find these bones, but they would find them in giant coffins, giant stone burial chambers. The article I read about the giants that they found in the caves in Kentucky, those were about 7 feet, 8 feet. All these giants you find and all these skeletons you find in the Americas and Europe, I've shared tons of articles where they go into Europe. Europe, nobody talks about the amount of giants that were found over there. I think they based the movie Trolls and a lot of giant movies off of places in Europe, which is interesting. We all know about the giants in the Middle East. The stories they talk about how U.S. soldiers were upon are stumbling on giants over there and stuff like that. And East Asia, India, all over the world you go, you find reports and legends of giants and remnants of giants. Everywhere you go, you're gonna find skeletons of giants or people of giant stature. Now, this is a super interesting article that I've had for a while, but I saw it again and I was kind of organizing some photos and I thought I'd go over it and talk about and bring out some of the information I have about giants and about the stature of man based on how he's evolved and his consciousness and how during the different epochs of time our our height, our stature has gotten a lot smaller. So let's go over this article right here on the size of Eve, or what they believe they found a skeleton of the first woman. And it's very interesting. We're going to go through some other articles on giants and some books on the stature of mankind. So let's check this out. The size of Eve. The Talmud says, see Baron Gold's Legends of the Patriarchs and Prophets. I actually own that book. It's a good book. And whether you believe the Talmud or support it or not, it's not about that right now. Just a little bit here, a little bit there, and we're going to cross-reference this, and we're going to see if there's any credit to what the Talmud has to say specifically about this. All right? The Talmud says that Adam was so tall he could stand with his feet on the earth and his head in heaven, and that God pressed him down at the time of the fall. The Arabs say that Adam was 312 feet high, and Eve was exactly 200 feet from the soles of her feet to the crown of her head. These same people also claim that Eve's tomb may now have been seen at Jeddah, a seaport of Mecca, and that its great size, 206 feet in length and 17 and 3/4 inch breadth, bears them out in the assertion that she was the most gigantic woman the earth has ever known of or will ever know. On each 3rd of June, the anniversary of the death of Abel, according to Arabian tradition, the door of the temple which has been built at the entrance to this gigantic tomb of our first mother stays open all night in spite of the efforts of the keepers to close it. And the most terrible cries of anguish issue from the sepulchre of the giantess who has been sleeping more than 6,000 years. Now, check this out. This is one of the many, many newspaper articles that I have from California Newspaper Archives on bones of giants or discoveries of giants being found all over the world. Now, this is from, like I said, the California Newspaper article. It's an article from 1860, but just check this out uh, in Sicily, 1516. There's a report of a giant found 30 feet high. 1548, 30 feet long. These are all over in Europe too. These are in Europe. These are reports of skeletons being found in this time and these dates are, and then in going back in antiquity, they go back in the records and they find records of giants being found or giant bones being found. Just check out the lengths and the height of some of these giants. As I stated, it doesn't matter really what archives you go into, you're going to find articles plenty of articles on them. Like a giant exhibited at Rowan in 1836, the professor says measured over 18 feet long. I haven't even gotten to the Americas. These are just the articles where they're talking about the giants found in Europe. Check this out from 1857, just more and more and more records of giants. It's another one. This is a small one. This is on the smaller end of things. This is only a 10-foot one that they found in America. Giant found in Pennsylvania, unearthed, 8 feet high. Now, I've read from this before, but we're going to talk about the different stages in mankind and the statues that you see all over the world, and that these statues represent a true depiction of what men used to look like and how tall they used to be, and how in different stages, especially amongst the Egyptians, you can see different statues varying in different height. Some of them are larger than life, huge. Look at the tiny humans, small human compared to the size of the statue. It says that these statues represent the different consciousness of man. Now it says there's 5 different stages of consciousness and 5 different varyings of height. So it says right here, the first one, this is the original, the 5th state of consciousness, where you'd be 60 feet and above. We go over here to the next stage, or the next size, and you're going to get to, as it says right here, 35 feet tall. And then it goes down to about 16 feet tall. And then you get to about 4 to 6 feet tall on the last one. Very interesting. And not only did the height represent the 5 different states of consciousness, but pharaohs tended to have 5 different names to show their 5 different, the return of the gods to America. In a certain place in India or Indochina, there is a great cliff, and on that is carved the figures of 5 men, varying in height from 6 feet to 173 feet in height. That figure, the 173 feet in height, is a great deal taller than the Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor. It is the tallest statue in the world. The occultist knows that those 5 figures, the first 173, the second one 120, the third one is about 60 feet in height, the fourth one about 27 feet in height, and the last one, the fifth one, would be the size of an ordinary man. These heights trace the descent of the races of mankind through the various types. It is true that on the tallest figures, now get this, as well as others, there have been superimposed plaster casts. Wow. Some with flowing robes that are similar to those that the Buddha wore. But later, they found that they had been merely placed over those ancient carvings. Okay, we go down past the Atlanteans and we get to the Lumerians, which I've done some research on, we've talked about before. And they said they're going to go down lower and you're going to get on to the scale of around 25 to 35 feet in height. All right? And then from there, you get smaller and smaller. Interesting. Another place, one much closer to home, is in a hidden valley about 150 miles west of the Grand Canyon of the Colorado. And those giant races still live there. Men that are 50 and 60 feet in height. They have remained away from the world during the period when it was passing through its age of darkness. So we've covered the Atlanteans before. We've talked a lot about the Atlanteans, the Lumerians, but it's cool to see them brought into this and kind of putting some statures in the size they've had. I've always kind of wondered how tall during the biblical times of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, how tall those guys would have been, or how tall Noah would have been, compared to the giants or the watchers that he would have had to fight, because it says that Abraham was fighting giants. All biblical patriarchs were giant slayers. So be interesting to figure out the size of that time period. But let's jump over here to the Atlanteans. The Atlanteans were very large men. The Atlanteans were that race preceding the 27-foot race. They were on average of 50 and 60 feet in height. That is the great race of ancient Atlanteans. Goes down here to the Lumerians, and they said they start averaging out after Atlantis at the 25, 20 foot to 35 foot, 40 foot in height. And then it goes from there smaller and smaller and smaller. Interesting. You can take a screenshot of that. Read it. All right, I'm going to finish it off by reading from this book. Man has risen, but man has not fallen. The great waves of consciousness rose to great heights and passed on, and in their place were taken by souls of lower consciousness, who cannot carry the high degree of wisdom and power. They misused it, and therefore fell into savagery. In doing so, they lost the knowledge the ancients had, or we might say it was removed from their race by a series of cataclysms. So it states also that those 60-foot gods are going to be returning to America.